We're Kyle and Miranda, and for Miranda's birthday, we took a 12-day road trip around the country of Iceland, where we
picked up a camper van,
hiked to an active volcano,
drove along the south coast,
sat on basalt columns,
climbed and drank from a really old glacier,
toured a glacier lagoon,
toured?
How do you want to say it? We toured a glacier lagoon.
Toured.
What are you saying?
Tour. We took a tour.
We toured.
We walked toward a glacier.
You walk toward, but you take a tour.
Take a tour.
Explored a glacier lagoon.
Walked a rainbow road.
Soaked in hot springs.
Beer spas.
Peeped some seals and whales.
And so much more. In this video, we'll cover the pandemic restrictions and regulations as of March 2022.
Discuss how to plan, prepare, and execute an itinerary for this wild land.
Share some seasonal packing tips.
Go over rental cars, lodging or camping, reservations you'll need, our entire budget,
and much more. So buckle up.
Get ready for the best trip of your life. Here's how to plan for Iceland. As of February 25th of 2022, there are no COVID restrictions to enter into Iceland.
That's from the US or anywhere else.
You do need a COVID test to return to the US.
They recommend that you do this within 1 day of departure from Iceland. You just need to plan for that in advance, and if you look at the Iceland websites, you can see where you can book those.
The rapid test is fine for this, and we actually found it pretty easy to get one scheduled.
But yeah, that got a lot easier than we initially planned to talk about. So, no restrictions. Just make sure you schedule your test while still in Iceland 1 day before your flight leaves, if you're coming back to the USA. So a few days to weeks before you start your big journey to Iceland, you'll want to prepare and plan as much as possible so that it makes it as stress-free as it can be. As far as the airport goes, now it's a lot easier, obviously, that you don't have to deal with any COVID restrictions for Iceland. Just make sure that you do all the regular planning that you would normally do for a trip that is longer in length or international. This includes parking if you're going to be gone for a long time, as well as making sure you have bought seats that are comfortable enough for you and checked any bags that you plan on bringing with you.
Definitely be sure to buy all of your popular adventure tickets well in advance. Tours and excursions sell out really quick, especially during the summer. We're talking scuba and snorkeling, kayaking, glacier hikes, whale watching, and
even hot springs.
Also, you may want to book your lodging and any rental vehicles that you need in advance as well.
Look into reservations for dining as well as spas, etc. That stuff can book up pretty quick. I would say 2 weeks in advance is probably a good enough time.
Look into the weather ahead of time if you can, so that you can plan the best days for your adventures.
The weather changes on a dime in Iceland, so just be prepared for anything. There are some really good websites to keep tabs on while you're over in Iceland. I'll put them right here so that you can make sure you make a note of it. One of them is definitely checking out the ring road, checking out the weather. There's a lot more you have to look at for places like Iceland, including maybe volcanic lava flow, maybe road closures due to sheep.
Right, there are entire roads that are closed for herding season. Floods are a common closure reason for roads, and Iceland does a really good job of updating all of the road closures that are going on at any given time.
I think right before we came to Iceland in our trip in September, there was actually an avalanche that happened just above the ring road in the south coast area. And this can cause a lot of problems. It can cause mudslides, it can cause road washout, it can cause flooding. So just really be aware of the weather, of the activity on the island from random events that aren't like anywhere else in the world, and how that can affect your travel. As far as research goes, I think one thing worth mentioning is if you are like us, I am very broad and larger, and Kyle is very tall and also broad.
Yeah.
And I think we needed to kind of make sure that we fit into the dry suits that were being offered. We needed to call around and ask a couple questions about like weight restrictions for double kayaking, or how can we make sure that we are eligible to perform this activity safely. So we were within, I think, everything that we needed to be, but I was hesitant on a couple things, so I opted out. But it's just kind of good to feel that out and know what you feel comfortable doing. And with reservations for restaurants and things like that, definitely call ahead if you have any dietary restrictions or allergens, and most of the time they're more than accommodating in Iceland. The food is incredible. You have to save a little bit of money to have a dining experience.
It's worth it though. So Iceland is European, and as such, pretty much everything on the island is going to be a stick shift. I've driven a stick shift like twice, and it was really hard for me to plan in advance to get an automatic. It was also difficult just to kind of like get our camper rental. It was kind of a beast of a process.
For a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to book in advance, I don't think, but just make sure you look into good rental companies. We went with one, it was fine, but the wait process was outrageous at the airport. And then there were so many people who had been waiting that they took only one person from each party, and well, you'll see in the future episodes. I'm just really glad we didn't plan anything pertinent on our agenda today.
Yeah.
It took about 4 hours though for me to sit with all our stuff at the airport with no bathroom break. And Kyle had to go deal with the chaotic mess at the desk of the rental car company, and we had some other issues come up. So that being said, let's make sure you don't make those mistakes. Book well in advance. Make sure you get the type of vehicle you want, automatic or manual. If you plan on going on any F-roads, which are the off-roads within Iceland that you can attend to during the high season, you want to get a 4x4 vehicle.
And that is actually a legal requirement there. So you can't bring your two-wheel drive on the F-roads. It will get stuck. You will also need a credit card. It's really, really difficult and much more expensive to get a rental vehicle with a debit.
And this is common knowledge for most people, but if you were like us, we didn't have great enough credit to actually have a credit card. So we had called ahead and asked about debit. They said it was fine, but by the time we got there, they said, oh, that'll be an upcharge, and you have to buy the full insurance package. So it wasn't a huge deal. We still got a good vehicle. We got the one we wanted, and our van was bigger than most people's when we saw others out on the ring road.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. But again, just really look into what you're getting. Speaking of legalities, make sure you know where you're allowed to camp. Camping in Iceland, if it's not designated, is illegal.
The good news is campsites are plentiful and fairly affordable over there. You will find them all throughout the ring road. There's no shortage, and they seem to be, for the most part, open all seasons.
Now, depending on how you want to experience Iceland, whether that is a camper van or a rental car with Airbnb lodgings or hotel stays, that's up to you. We did a little bit of both, and both were really great. I think we enjoyed the camping more because you're really immersed in nature, and there's a lot of nature to absorb.
Iceland is a great country to explore by camper van.
Yeah. If you do want to get a rental car because that's not your style to camp or it's uncomfortable, that is a great option as well. And you just kind of have to factor in whether or not you want to schlep in all of your luggage to each hotel you stay at. Also, will your food stay good if you're going to be buying groceries, and will you always have a kitchen at your disposal, or will you need to eat more PB&Js, those kind of things. Or if you work in your restaurants as you go on your route, that's an option too. Showering is a thing, of course. With our camper van, we just showered at the campsites, and when we did have Airbnbs or hotels, of course we utilized that facility then.
Regardless of whether you go the camper van or rental car route, there are some pricey add-ons to keep in mind. But one of the local tips is to rent your Wi-Fi hotspot independent of the rental car agency.
Another tip would be to download maps offline and have it ready to go, because even if you have some Wi-Fi, there are still spotty areas around the island and you may not be able to access your GPS.
And there's no substitute for a physical map.
Yeah, we actually bought a physical map on Amazon, and it was like weatherproof and tear-proof, so that came in handy. We were able to open it up and take a look and really get kind of up close on where we wanted to experience and where we wanted to go. It's also a nice little souvenir that we have now that's a little bit weathered and worn.
Yeah.
Along with a physical map, you may want to upgrade some gear that is Iceland savvy. But that'll bring us into packing, so let's move on to packing.
Regardless of the season that you visit in, bring layers. And definitely add a scarf and coat if you're going in the winter.
Make sure you bring plenty of hats too. We went in what would be considered the fall. We experienced all of the elements: sun and warmth, rain and wind, and even snow. But layers and a good puffy jacket were really essential for that time of year. Plus, if you're going to be doing a lot of hiking, it's really good to have layers so that you can strip down and put them back on.
No matter what time of year you visit, definitely bring a good rain jacket and rain pants if you want to stay comfortable. I would also recommend a good, hopefully broken in pair of hiking shoes. Make sure your hiking boots have good ankle support too, because otherwise certain excursions that you go on will actually make you rent boots.
Along with good boots, make sure you have good socks. You want something that will keep you warm but will also dry quickly or wick away the sweat if they get wet. And that also goes for any of your layers as well.
Wool is great, or you can use your preferred synthetic substitute. Also consider bringing a day pack with you wherever you go.
Even if you rent a car, it's really important to have what you need on your back or at your hip or just ready to grab when you need it.
It's a good place to keep your headlamps for if you end up hiking or camping in the dark. You can also pack some snacks for the trail.
Other items we would recommend that you bring in a day pack are a hat, some gloves, your rain jacket and rain pants layers, maybe some first aid kit materials like band-aids for blisters or some sort of gauze if you cut yourself on a sharp rock or something, God forbid. You can bring extra socks if yours get wet, and like Kyle said, snacks. If you wear glasses and you have contacts, make sure you bring both so that you're not constantly trying to wipe off your glasses at a waterfall or in the rain. Also, there are some tips that you can look up about the Blue Lagoon and other mineral hot springs where they may interact with glasses, lenses, or contacts. So just kind of review that and see what you feel comfortable with. What I ended up doing was wearing contacts and just not opening my eyes underwater and being careful I didn't get the mineral water in my eyes with my contacts in. But regardless, whatever adventures you go on, make sure that you bring contacts so that you can experience the adventure fully.
There are also some really beautiful wild hot springs that you may want to experience and dry off for. So, towel's a good handy item.
We found packing cubes to be a very big help in squeezing in all of the layers and socks and items that we needed. It kept our van really organized because we could just put our stuff in the nooks and crannies around the van and we knew where everything was, and it kept everything just kind of compact.
Whether you're a pro or not, Iceland is gorgeous and you'll probably want to pack some camera gear. If you're taking any videos, we highly recommend a good microphone and a dead cat for wind if that is something that you can swing.
Just be really careful you don't get your equipment wet. Our brand new Rode mic with a dead cat actually stopped working on like day 3 in Iceland. So you'll hear a lot of wind in our later videos.
Underwater cameras are also a good idea to bring along, like a GoPro or another waterproof adventure cam, because the waterfalls are one of the highlights of that country. And you definitely don't want to bring your DSLR or another handheld camera and get it soaked at Cellulans Foss. And tripods or lighting accessories, whatever else you like to have in your gear bag.
Also, drones are allowed in Iceland. Just look into the local and up-to-date regulations on those and make sure that you don't fly too close to a volcano and that you don't get caught up in the wind too poorly, and you should be fine, and there will be some amazing shots. Speaking of gear, don't forget, if you do stay in hotels or Airbnbs, that Iceland is on the European outlet team.
You can find decent outlet adapters for cheap on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or at a local hardware store.
Yeah, we grabbed a couple from Amazon. I think it was under $30 for 2 of them. Also, that being said, going back to camper vans quickly, we have an inverter we've used since 2018. It has held up and been worthy for 4 years, so I recommend that. And you can charge your phones, your laptops, you can use whatever you need to charge it up and keep driving.
Also, while on the road, we found that a little phone mount for the car was a game changer.
Yeah, it was really nice to have the phone accessible and viewable for driving. Don't forget to leave room in your luggage for souvenirs. And don't forget about the souvenir tax. We'll give you the lowdown on how to get your money back before departing from Iceland, so stay tuned for that. But you may want some quirky trinkets, you may want some unique snacks, you may also want a handmade Icelandic sweater. Who knows?
Iceland has some great liquor if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, we tried some interesting stuff.
You can taste it.
No, you can't. It tastes like a farm.
Yeah. We brought 1 large suitcase, 2 small carry-on size suitcases, a regular hiking pack, and then our camera gear backpack.
You can definitely pack lighter than that. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we had everything we needed. We would highly recommend using your first day in Iceland as a getting your bearings day. Don't make too many plans for right when you land. You may get held up at the rental car company
for 4 hours.
You may need shuttles to the rental car companies. You may get lost. You may need more time than you realize to stock up on groceries or booze at the airport at duty free. Trust us, just give yourself 1 full day to adjust. What we did though, ours was kind of like a half and half, get your bearings, get moving day. It was going to just be like a get our bearings day. However, the active volcano that was going off on the south coast had stopped before we got to the island and started up again like right before we landed. So we said volcano day and we made a scramble for it right after getting groceries. But we took a nap in the parking lot at the volcano and then we did an evening hike.
When you land, just be ready for customs with your passport and any visa documentation you might need if you're working there or plan to. On the way out of the airport, you might want to stop at Duty Free. Duty Free has limited taxes and is the cheapest place to get liquor and also a lot of other souvenirs.
It kind of reminds me of like a generic Walgreens. You can get like stuffed animals, you can get snacks, you can get Band-Aids, you can get booze.
Yeah.
So, why don't you talk about fueling up?
Fueling up in Iceland is a little bit different. When you're at the pump, you'll want to select a prepaid dollar amount to fill up to and avoid using the fill tank or like fill up option, because if you select that one, it'll place a really big hold on your card.
And as far as gas stations go in Iceland, they're kind of interesting and they're fun to stop at. There's some that are more restaurants, some are kind of like a deli counter, some are a hot dog stand, some are a grocery store. It's just kind of interesting. I recommend stopping at them if you get the chance, which you will if you have a rental car.
As for parking tickets, we got one. We did not realize that we were supposed to pay to park at a lot that we were only in for like 1 or 2 minutes while we signed up for an excursion. But on the way out, a camera took a picture of our plate, which means that that ticket went to our rental agency, which means that the rental agency didn't actually charge us until they sent us an invoice about 6 months later, with a processing fee tagged on. So
we f***ed around and found out. Sharing the facts so you don't have to find out. Let's talk about grocery stores. There are a few main ones in Iceland: Bonus, Kroger, and there is Costco. There are vegan options at all of these stores, and I will go over those on the Uprooted Foodie channel.
Give yourself some time at the grocery store because none of the ingredients are going to be in English. It's handy to have a translator app on your phone, especially if you have any special diets or food allergies that you need to keep an eye out for.
It's also nice to give yourself some time because it's kind of fun to look around the grocery store, and you can find unique souvenirs to buy just in there. If you rent a camper van like we did, just make sure that you rearrange the space however it works best for you. We had ours for almost 2 weeks, and the way it was set up didn't really work for us. So the cooler was in the middle of the van, and it was very small, so it didn't actually do a good job of cooling very much. We actually used that as more of a pantry, and then we used our drawers for electronics and toiletries and some clothes, and then we had another drawer that I think we had the butane and like cooking ware in, and in the back we kept all of the items that would be best cold, because underneath the bed in the garage area of the van it was very cold all the time. So that's where we kept everything.
Some social tips for Iceland and how to be a good tourist. When you're asked where you're from, if you're from the US, a lot of us tend to say, I'm American, but that's kind of confusing because we are from the Americas. That includes a ton of countries, so definitely err on saying, I'm from the US or I'm from the States.
When you are out being a tourist, please offer to take other people's photos. It's very nice, and you'll be glad when someone can return the favor for you.
Being aware of hogging things. It might be a beautiful view, a scenic spot, or a hot spring.
Just make sure that you're aware of the time you're spending there. Get the time you need, but be patient if you are waiting to enter a hot spring that's busy. Be patient if someone's getting a good photo of a view for themselves. Don't be rude and overstay your welcome when other people are waiting behind you.
Learn how to drive properly in a roundabout before you go to Iceland. This is crucial on the western side of the island towards Reykjavik and the other cities. There are tons of roundabouts.
I think one more thing that's important to add as a social tip is give people their space. I think right now with COVID, while a lot of us are eager to travel and excited, just remember social distance is just kind of nice in general. Just give some people their space. Times have been weird for a while, and some of us aren't used to being somewhere crowded or popular.
Iceland is also famous for its spa and hot spring culture. It might be different from what you're used to over here. Anytime before you go into a spa or a hot spring, you should shower beforehand in the nude. It's totally normal. It might take a second to get used to, but it's just for the sake of being sanitary.
I found it funny that the only people who were uncomfortable with this idea were fellow Americans. US citizens, I mean. I had one encounter at the beer spa with another woman who said, "Oh, I won't look if you don't look," or whatever, something like that, and I was like, it's not a big deal.
If you don't make it weird, nobody else will.
Yeah.
The most dangerous animal in all of Iceland, the Arctic tern.
The Arctic tern is just a bird. The only wildlife in Iceland that you might encounter on land is going to be birds and puffins. That's pretty much it. In the water, you'll be likely to see puffins and seals and whales, but there's really no dangerous wildlife in Iceland. For all the dangerous things that go on in Iceland, wildlife is not one of them. And that's just because they're so far north. They're directly below the Arctic Circle. Nothing has really survived. Nothing has really ever been shipped there to start breeding and creating a dangerous environment for wildlife. It's pretty remote. I was worried at first, like, oh, are there bears or mountain lions? But no, there's not even deer.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that.
We just had to respect the sheep, that's all.
The sheep, you do.
As far as dangers in Iceland, the main thing that you'll have to pay attention to is just the weather and the elements. Like we said, keep an eye on road closures and any warnings for whatever area you're traveling to.
Now we're gonna get to the fun part. Things we recommend that you must do in Iceland.
Try a hot dog. Hot dogs are like the national dish of Iceland, and they're really good there. Shockingly, a really great place to get a hot dog is just at the gas stations. They're really good.
Some other good foodie spots around the island are the capital of Reykjavik, and also Akureyri in the north, which is a charming town with a lot to explore. I think our favorite restaurant experience by far was a place called Friedheimer Greenhouse.
Friedheimer was a highlight of our trip, and we didn't know that it was gonna be, but it's a really famous greenhouse that is known for its tomato dishes.
So you're surrounded in this greenhouse by tons of tomato plants, basil plants, bees, and just other people enjoying a relaxing restaurant experience. And you just feel like you're in this other world. It's definitely a one-of-a-kind experience. You have to go there. You have to. We'll make an entire video about it probably.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are plenty of adventures to choose from in Iceland. Pick one that you know you will enjoy. Pick one that's outside of your comfort zone a little bit, but that you've always wanted to do. Maybe just take a hike.
Iceland is a great place to indulge your adventurous side. There are no shortage of different adventures to go on.
And adventure companies are there, and they're so safe. TripAdvisor and sites will tell you how it might go. Go whale watching, take a boat tour, go kayaking in a lagoon, hike a glacier, take a glacier cave tour. I mean, it's endless. You can do so many different things, and we barely scratched the surface. I can't wait to go back and do a few of the things I was a little nervous to try, and I can't believe I did some of the things I did.
Yeah. While you're there, it's also a good idea to check out some of the museums, learn some of the local history of the country and of the Vikings.
It's really fun on like a bad weather day or a day when you don't really know what you're doing. If you're near a city or a museum, take a tour. Stop along the road whenever you want, whether you've planned it or not. There are so many beautiful sights to take in. You'll be really glad that you stood up and stretched in a beautiful place.
Absolutely. Take pictures and video too. Whether you're a professional or an amateur, it's gonna be the trip of a lifetime, and you'll definitely want to remember it.
You can plan it however you want, but because there are still requirements to show up in the US with a test, you need to plan for that. There are a handful of routes you can take. There's two. There are two main routes you can take around the island of Iceland. Most people explore the south coast and continue around the ring road counterclockwise. And I would recommend you go counterclockwise and end with your time in Reykjavik.
As for getting to the airport, arrive early, because there's kind of a lot to do. You're going to want to arrange the drop-off for your car rental. From our experience, I would say give that more time than you think you will need. Wasn't a whole lot better than picking up the car. I think it was like 2 hours to actually drop it off.
I was able to deposit our Wi-Fi back into the post because you can do that at the airport before you leave.
And for all of the souvenirs that you bought while you're there, keep the receipts. Most non-consumable items they'll be available for.
And it's one of those situations where you actually do want to go to the souvenir shops in the city or around the island, just because they will give you a tourism tax receipt upon checkout. You can fill out your tax-free forms while at the airport. I had to wait in line. You can find it. It's not hard to find, and it's not a very big airport. The tax area, you want to have all of your receipts in hand. You want to fill out the form before you go stand in line. And you might need to do some quick math. You might need an address and credit card or debit card information where you want that money refunded. and then you hop in line and you present it to the agent at the desk. They may also be a little bit interrogative and intense, but they're just trying to find out honestly how much money was spent on souvenirs. They'll keep all of your info. You'll get that money back on your card. I think it was 1 to 3 months for us, but it'll just show up in your account. It sounds overwhelming, it sounds complicated and tedious. It's really none of those things. It's just something you need to be organized about and just keep track of.
Saves you a few bucks.
Yeah, you do get some money back, so. So how much did it cost for 2 people to go to Iceland for 12 days?
Well, to be fair, we planned pretty hard, but we also didn't cap our budget too low.
It was my birthday celebration, so we kind of splurged.
We were there for a good time, and we had heard that Iceland can be expensive. It's true, but it's doable. So here's the breakdown of our costs.
Feel free to screenshot these if need be.
There are, however, cheaper ways to visit Iceland. Another great way to see Iceland is through a ring road tour with a guided tour company.
This can usually include lodging, meals, adventure excursions, and a few extra perks. And you make some friends along the way. So if you're thinking of going solo, but you're not entirely sure how to do that, maybe this option would be for you.
There's no shortage of different places to see in Iceland. You can just do the ring road, but you can also venture out into the West Fjords or hit the F roads if you get a 4x4.
We hope you liked this video. It was a lot of work, but fun to make, and it's a lot to reflect on. These trips are big, they can be pricey, but they are called trips of a lifetime for a reason.
Hopefully you got some good advice from this. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to stay tuned and get notified for our upcoming adventure series through the country, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell notification.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for watching.